Where do you think most white people are at on white privilege today? Should it be something for them to understand?
Yes. You don't know what you don't know. And so the way I kind of conceive of it is like this. This is one way of framing this. Is like we hear all the time that this is the land of equal opportunity. A white person said that because it's like there's layers, and depending what group you are, depending what town you live in, it will differ. But there is a hierarchy here, and there. White folks, this country was conquered by white people and taken over by white people and structured for white people. So that puts you on this top tier. You're the owner. And there's other layers beneath that. And those layers all have like obstacles that are put there because of the white structure. And so you bump into them. It could be anything. I remember the day my daughter-in-law came home when she was dating my daughter, now he's my son-in-law, and they were dating, and there's outside of the restaurant in Grand, forget what it's called, the Onion. And that doesn't matter. But so they're sitting there, it's 9 or 10 at night, and they're just talking. They're engaged, and they're having a good discussion. And all of a sudden, a policeman walks up to the car and knocks on the window and says, ma'am, are you okay? Referring to my daughter, are you okay? He goes, yeah. And he pauses, kind of dramatic, and says, are you really okay? And she's like, yeah, I'm fine. And he asked a third time. Actually, she said she walked away for a little bit, and then he came back. And then he had his flashlight, and he said, are you really okay? And then he was like shining his flashlight in the car looking for something. Then he has my son-in-law get out of the car. He says, go stand at the back of the car. And then says my daughter, are you really okay? Hey, tell me now, and I can. And then my daughter started to lose it because she realized what was going on. Fourth time, and so she starts to get really mad. Well, Halos, my son-in-law comes over and has to shut her up. Shut up, just shut up, and because he knows where this might go. Well, see, that's what happens on layer number 2 or layer number 3. It would never happen to me. I'm convinced that there's no probable cause for anything other than, as he described it, it's DWB, driving while black. And that opened Danae's eyes to kind of what the reality of things. So, but the thing is if you're on the top tier, you don't bump into those things. And so it's easy to say this is a land of equal opportunity because for you it has been like that. And you won't know any different unless you know some of the folks on the lower tiers, and enough to trust them. It's like I remember, this is probably a number of years ago. There was on this Christian radio station, it was a call-in station, and they were discussing the legitimacy or not of this study that was done, I think by the University of Minnesota, on why it is that, this is like 97, black male is, I think it was 17% more likely, no, it was like 27 times more likely than a white person to be pulled over. And every call in was like, they're just playing the race card because they don't want to get tickets. And they're hostile. And you could tell voice inflection that they're probably white. Then one person, a color, comes in and says, well, I've been pulled over 8 times in the last 4 years, and I have a perfect record. They just pulled me over to question me for stuff. And then the follow-up calls were even angrier. He's playing the race card. And the thing is, if you're white, how would you know whether it's legitimate or not? Because you're exactly the person it wouldn't happen to. Only if you have relationships with people for whom it does happen, and the relationships are deep enough so they're trustworthy, can you get out of your white zone and begin to see a different world, a different world that some folks live in. So I think waking up to that is like the most important thing, because only then do you have the chance to put down the power. You won't put it down if you don't know you have it. It's like I hear so many times, every time I preach on this with passion, and I can't get passionate about it, but because it is freeing. It's really freeing once you realize, my normal's not the only normal. But I get folks saying, like you said at the very beginning, they'll say, I always talk about the myopic white perspective. We all have a myopic thing based on our grid, our map, and all that. And whenever I talk about that, I'll get responses saying, I don't have a white perspective. That's liberal talk. That's PC talk. I don't have a white perspective. I just see things as they are. And I say, well, that is the white perspective. Waking up to that is the all-important thing. But I doubt you can get that from a book or anything like that. It takes genuine relationships.
Yeah, I was kind of reluctant. I was thinking about the, I've watched so many discussions where this term privilege comes up and white people start freaking out, and my family was poor and we didn't have, so what do you mean privilege? And so we start to trade anecdotes about who's had it worse, and forget some of the bigger picture. When the book by Michael Emerson and Rice came out, Smith came out several years ago, Divided by Faith, I highly recommend. They pointed out how for evangelicals, particularly, well, American evangelicals, particularly white evangelicals, how we reduce everything to this personal narrative, right? So everything is about, well, my family didn't own slaves, so what do I need to think about slaves for? Or I don't hate that black person, so why do I need to wrestle with these things? And so largely because we talk about our faith in such individualistic ways and think of our relationship with God in these purely individualistic terms, we have a hard time thinking about systemic issues. So this notion of privilege sounds, for some, so personal, and they think, well, I have a hard life, what do you mean? That they lose sight or can't see that bigger picture. So I know that happens, and sometimes it's frustrating for me that I get tired of it. I admit I have had some of that fatigue. But I'll mention another book yet. It just came out called, it's very short, easy. It's called Pondering Privilege. A woman that I know, so I wrote the blurb for it in there, but by a woman named Jody Wiley Fernando, and it's really a helpful tool, I think, because she doesn't come at it with there's not a sense of self-righteousness. There's a nice, humble spirit to be able to address such issues and hopefully help people where they are. So I'll just recommend that.
Yeah, if you're thinking individualistically, then all you actually reduce, and you can't see the system, then you reduce everything down to that individual. And that is in part why so many white folks will say, well, stop doing that, or stop committing crime, or don't run away from family. And since you don't see the systems, the history, the factors that have gone into this,
right.
The only thing that's left is race.
Right.
I guess black people must like to go to prison. I guess it's all reduced to that individual behavior.
Right.
And that's where you got to zoom out and realize there's powers that we're fighting against.
Right. Exactly.
Not like an individual is going to change without that.